Oh, okay. It always helps. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Do you hear me now? Do you hear me now? Testing, 1, 2, 3. Talking about the on-ramps? Yeah, good. Talking about the on-ramps that will be closing on Friday night at 11? Okay. Tell me when. Say when. Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? On-ramps, great, perfect, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Should we get going?
I think so, yeah.
All right.
Everybody okay? Okay, we're ready.
Well, thanks for braving the elements today. There's a couple things that, I guess, start with introductions first. My name's David Sowers. Last name spelled S-O-W-E-R-S. I'm the Deputy Program Administrator for the Alaskan Way Viaduct Replacement Program. Thank you all for coming out today. I know it's a little chilly and you'd probably rather be back at the office, but this week is an important milestone for us as we get ready to begin the viaduct closure. A lot of preparation has gone into getting to this point. A couple of the key messages that I wanted to share with you all today as we get ready for this is there's some new videos that we've released today about getting around after the tunnel opens, and I think those are really important for travelers and folks that live and work downtown to understand that when we open up 99, it's going to look and feel differently than it did when you used the viaduct. And so that's an important message for people. And I think those videos are really informative and encourage people to take a look at that, and you all should do that. Try to add that into your stories as you're talking about this over the next few days. But most importantly, what we have starting Friday is the first of the closures here at Royal Brome. The on and off ramps into SoDo will be closed at 10 o'clock on Friday night. There's about 23,000 vehicles per day that use these two ramps in total, and those folks that work and live in SoDo will be impacted. And so we're trying to get that message out to folks that you'll need to plan alternate routes to get in and out of SoDo, particularly for folks that live in the north end. So the two ramps include the southbound off ramp from the main line to South Atlantic Street. That ramp will close at 10 o'clock on Friday, and then the ramp right behind me, the Royal Brome ramp northbound, will close also at 10 o'clock on Friday. There's a fair amount of work that we need to do in the coming week before the big closure starts on the 11th, and tackling some of that work this weekend and next week is paramount to getting ahead of and dealing with some of the work that then starts on the 11th. And for example, we walked a lot of you through the tunnel a few weeks back, and we talked about removing all that geofoam that's underneath the main line. Well, that geofoam is part of the on-ramps, is also underneath this current temporary on-ramp. And so starting to tackle some of that work, closing this ramp, we can actually remove that geofoam, and then we can start building some barrier. There's some exposing of those walls that allow us to dowel in and begin the shotcreting and permanent barrier work and permanent walls for the north and southbound on-ramps. So that work will get started. All of this is what we call sort of risk mitigation, meaning this is work that if we tried to squeeze it into the 3 weeks, we'd probably be pushing ourselves a little bit hard at the end, and this gives us a little bit of flexibility. It also helps us in the event that we get some really cold weather, we get some snow, we have some potential weather impacts. This work that we're tackling at these ramps allows us to kind of get ahead of that and ensure that we finish the closure in the 3 weeks that we've got allocated. So those are the big takeaways I want everybody to get today. I really encourage you to take a look at the videos. I think they're really informative, and they'll help people learn about how they're going to use the on and off ramps to get into Seattle from 99.
Questions?
So yeah, I'll take questions.
One of the videos, the one that I used to watch, says that the airport ramp will open a week or so after the tunnel opens. That's less than you guys have said before. What's the new estimate?
Yeah, the schedule is in the contract is 7 to 10 days. That's the duration that when we put this whole plan together a year or two ago, that was the duration, 7 to 10 days after the main line opened. We've done a lot of work. We've had these closures on and off all summer. This work that we're doing this coming week, all of those things and the planning that's gone into it suggests that we could complete that work more in the 5 to 7 day range. But I want to say comfortably 7 days a week is the time period it will take us after the main lines open to finish this last piece, which is also right behind me. That's that northbound off ramp for folks coming from West Seattle that are trying to get into downtown. That will take about an extra week. Well, so for travelers from the north that work downtown and like to use the South Atlantic Street ramp, you're going to have to exit at Western southbound, or you're going to end up in West Seattle. And so you need to be paying attention to the messaging, and you need to understand that next week that we don't want folks to suddenly find themselves in West Seattle when they were trying to get to the Stadium District. So the message to folks is take Western and then navigate down through the waterfront to get here. The northbound traffic isn't impacted as much because because the ramps are really focused on the north end. So folks that live in West Seattle won't really be impacted by what's happening next week unless they work in SoDo and then are trying to maybe use this ramp behind me to get further into the city. So those are kind of some things to pay attention to. Any other questions?
This ramp, we're going to close, but then you're going to use that time to make it into a ramp tow.
Right, yes. So the ramp, the northbound, permanent northbound on-ramp into the tunnel, as well as the tunnel ramp that comes out southbound, is buried underneath the ramp that's right behind me. And so when we close that ramp, we can take up that asphalt, we can dig out that dirt, we can expose the styrofoam that was buried, we can do all that work, we can start marching our way south to north. When the main line then closes that crosses over that ramp closes, then we can that's what starts on the 11th. We can continue to march north and remove all of that geofoam and then expose the roadway that was built by STP years ago, and then build the barrier and build the walls underground. Correct. Yeah, certainly that's part of our messaging, is that folks understand that they need to access downtown differently during the closure, whether they choose to use I-5 or city streets, or, more than anything, we really want people to think about their discretionary travel, whether they really need to use those routes and those particular times of days. So we're talking a lot to employers and folks that work downtown about teleworking or stretching your schedule around so that you can not impact the 7 a.m. commute and the 4 p.m. commute out of town. If folks can do that, then the routes that are the conventional sort of backup detour routes that people take, like I-5 and the city streets, will still have functionality if we can all sort of chip in and adjust our schedules accordingly. Yeah, I don't want to say the worst. I don't want to say it's going to be that. In 2016, I wouldn't have characterized it for a lot of people, but there certainly were people that were caught off guard, and we want to encourage people to pay attention, look at the website, and get a feel for how you're going to get around during the closure, because if you use 99 today, you're going to be impacted, and if you use I-5 today, those 99 travelers will be trying to use I-5, and those folks need to understand that they're going to have to give themselves extra time to get downtown. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's where I'm counting on all of you to help us. That's why you're all here, is because you guys are the stewards of getting the message out to folks, and you know, some of the things I just said are so important. If travelers don't give themselves extra time to get downtown, you're going to miss appointments, you're going to be late to work. It's not that you can't get downtown, I'm not going to ever advertise that. What I think we need to tell people is that what we saw in 2016 was that it took longer to get downtown. Some commutes actually took twice as long, say from Bellevue to Seattle actually took twice as long, because the impacts of 99 closure actually materialized on some of the east-west corridors. And so we really want folks to just give themselves extra time. It's not that you can't get downtown, you just need to pack some patience and be ready for a longer commute. Or adjust your schedule and keep your commute the same time, but just use the different time of day to do it.
Has WSDOT communicated with customers like people to make sure that when this does close, it'll automatically show up on the GPS rather than somebody has to program that in?
Yeah, a lot of that coordination is done by SDOT. SDOT's been talking to the Googles of the world to make sure that Waze and the systems that we all use to get around are up and ready day one. Well, so that's what we're going to encourage people, is to use I-5. If you're trying to get to I-90, you traditionally come down 99 and then cut over. We don't want you to do that. We want you to go use I-5 or use Western. Find a way through the city to get to 99 or to I-90. Yeah, it's a very good point. Anything else?
How ready are you for the big closure?
Well, I think we're very ready. I mean, there's been a lot of planning, and I know there was an interest in October to really try to push and see if we could do it then. There's been a ton of work to get the tunnel ready, of course, a lot of planning, a lot of coordination with the city, the county, just planning, people getting ready and planning their commutes. I think even for us personally, we had a little extra time to do that. So I think we're definitely ready for this. You know, I guess, again, the risks are weather, a little bit nervous about a long, sustained period of snow. I think we can handle that, handle a lot of rain, and we can handle the snow if, you know, we're actually asking the contractor to be ready for some concrete work with blankets and heaters and those types of things. I'd just be worried if it lasted for a week. That would be a big problem for us. That would push the schedule. But a little bit of weather, a little bit of snow probably won't affect us much.
Well, that brings up my follow-up. With that weather and those concerns in mind, any concern at all that the preparation might not be done?
Yeah, so first of all, that's our goal, is February 4th. We're talking about opening this tunnel in early February. Our goal is after the grand opening events on the weekend of the 2nd and 3rd that we would open it up that night. Again, weather's always a risk, and if we had a sustained period of really, really lousy weather, and I mean like snow, 30 degrees and below type of weather, that would probably impact our schedule if it lasted for more than a day or two. Usually we have a day or two of snow in Seattle every winter, so we could handle that. But if it happened if it went on for a week or more, that would be a problem in terms of making that February schedule.
Is the suggestion for folks who typically use this ramp to take I-5 and go south to head north on 99, or just to avoid 99 altogether?
Well, certainly we don't want people to come down into SoDo and then try to get on here. They'll be circling the block that we're standing on. So we're asking those folks to use I-5, or if you're going somewhere else in downtown, use 4th or use another route. Sometimes I know people live in SoDo that actually jump on this ramp and then jump off at Seneca. You're not going to be able to do that. You need to use First, you need to go up the Alaskan Way Boulevard, go up the waterfront that way. So that's a small minority of folks that do that, but there are people that use it as just jump one exit. And so again, with all your help, we can get that message out that these are closing. A lot of good work's going to happen that next week here. You guys will all be invited out both this coming Friday and then early next week. We'll do some more media briefings with you all, kind of show you the progress of the work. But yeah, if you live in SoDo or you work in SoDo, it'll be a little more challenging to get in and around SoDo. So you have to use other routes.
So the ramps on the north end by the north side of the tunnel are not closing right now?
That's correct. Yep, they'll all stay open.
And then are you putting in a traffic light at Harrison?
Yeah, so the question is, are we putting a traffic light in at Harrison? There is a traffic light at Harrison. It's currently bagged. That will open after we open the tunnel on February 4th. So east-west traffic on Harrison will return after 60 years of being closed.
So thank you all for coming. I want to point out something over here. You see this geophone right here? That is part of the on-ramp that Dave was talking about. So you can actually get a peek at that.
Yeah, if you look at that real close, you can actually see the concrete right there. That's actually the part of the permanent ramp into the tunnel. So you can see the angle. So you'll come to this intersection and you'll immediately kind of dive down and quickly enter into the tunnel right at this location. And so that's what we're going to remove there. We're going to start removing those white blocks of geofoam. It's a styrofoam product. We'll remove those. We'll take all that dirt, that geotextile fabric, the asphalt, all that temporary barrier. That'll all start coming out in earnest at 10 o'clock on Friday night. All right, thank you everyone for coming up.
More to come. Thank you.
God, it's cold out.
It's freezing out here.